Think you know what love looked like in the Middle Ages? Picture this: gallant knights in gleaming armor charging into battle for the honor of a fair maiden locked in a distant tower, whispering poetic vows under starry skies, embarking on perilous quests to win her heart in a whirlwind of eternal passion and chivalric glory. It's the stuff of fairy tales, right? The kind of romance that inspired countless Disney movies, Valentine's Day cards, and swoon-worthy novels. But hold on to your chainmail, because that's the glossy, airbrushed myth we've inherited, sanitized. Fantasy peddled by later centuries to make the past seem enchanting. The raw truth of medieval love: it's a grotesque carnival of horrors that would send modern therapists into overdrive and make your most awkward blind date feel like a spa day. We're talking an era where romantic pursuit often meant outright stalking disguised as devotion, where weddings were brokered like shady cattle auctions, and where the all-powerful Catholic Church branded any hint of bedroom pleasure as a fast track to eternal damnation, if it was with your lawfully wedded spouse. Imagine a world where marrying off a 12-year-old girl was standard procedure, where unrequited obsession was elevated to an art form, and where true love wasn't measured by shared laughter or mutual respect, but by how much suffering, violence, and ownership you could cram into the equation. And get this, these weren't fringe behaviors confined to villains in dusty tomes. They were the societal norms, glorified in literature, enforced by law, and preached from pulpits across Europe. The medieval mindset twisted love into a tool for power, property, and piety, creating a system so toxic it makes our contemporary red flags look like mild suggestions. But why does this matter today? Because whispers of these deranged ideals still echo in our culture from the bad boy trope in rom-coms too, the lingering notion that jealousy proves passion, or that grand gestures must involve drama and danger. If you're brave enough to peel back the layers and confront how medieval folks engineered a romantic framework built on emotional wreckage. Brutal conquest, an outright human commodification where happily ever after was dismissed as boring and unattainable then strap. We're about to embark on a deep dive into this shadowy realm, exploring six-weight, make that 7, because we've got even more ground to cover, disturbing facets that will forever change how you view those knight in shining armor stories. By the end, you might just light a candle in gratitude for the Enlightenment. Let's shatter the illusions and uncover the grim realities, starting right now. 1. The art of suffering courtly love as emotional masochism. Let's begin with the beating heart of medieval romantic delusion. Courtly love, a bizarre philosophy that transformed unfulfilled desire into the pinnacle of noble existence. Emerging in the 12th century amid the courts of southern France, particularly under the patronage of figures like Eleanor of Aquitaine and her daughter Marie of Champagne. This wasn't about happy couples strolling hand in hand. It was a codified system of self-torment that the aristocracy embraced as a mark of refinement. Troubadours, those poetic rock stars of the era, like Bernard de Ventadorn or Arnaut Daniel, churned out verses idolizing the agony of loving a married noblewoman from afar, turning rejection into a badge of honor. Why married? Because consummation was forbidden. The thrill lay in the impossibility. Andreas Capellanus, in his influential 1180s treatise, The Art of Courtly Love, outlined 31 ironclad rules that read like a blueprint for modern anxiety disorders. Every act of a lover ends in the thought of his beloved. A true lover considers nothing good except what he thinks will please his beloved. And crucially, he who is not jealous cannot love. Knights were expected to pine endlessly, composing sonnets about their pallor, insomnia, and wasting away symptoms not of illness, but of true devotion. If the lady deigned to toss a glance or a token like a sleeve or glove, the knight's suffering was supposed to intensify, proving his worth. Ignore him entirely, that elevated her to goddess status and him to ultimate martyr. This wasn't mere poetry. It infiltrated real life. In the courts of Provence and beyond, nobles staged elaborate performances of this torment, with knights dedicating tournaments or crusades to unattainable loves, sometimes without ever exchanging words. Women, too, were ensnared, expected to embody icy virtue. Any reciprocation risked branding them as unchaste or lowborn. Think of Chrétien de Troyes, Lancelot, where the knight's obsession with Queen Guinevere leads to heroic feats but eternal heartache. That's the ideal. Courtly love spread like wildfire across Europe, influencing Italian poets like Dante, whose Beatrice was forever out of reach, and even shaping English literature. But at its core, it was competitive emotional warfare. Who could suffer most? Exquisitely, no wonder it birthed tropes like the brooding hero or the pedestal-placed damsel. In a world of arranged marriages, this fantasy offered escape but at the cost of genuine connection. Medieval elites literally romanticized mental health crises, and we've been unpacking the baggage ever since. 2. Marriage as a ruthless business transaction. Dowries, deals, and disposable brides now shift gears to the cold calculus of medieval matrimony. Forget soulmates or sparks flying. This was mergers and acquisitions with veils and vows. Across Europe, from the 11th to 15th centuries, marriages were orchestrated by parents or guardians as strategic power plays, often between children as young as 7, in binding contracts that prioritized land, alliances, and wealth over affection. The dowry system turned brides into commodified assets. Families haggled over a woman's worth, bundling cash, jewelry, livestock, or property as her entry fee into the groom's household. In return, the groom's side provided dower rights property, set aside for the widow's support, but it was all transactional, with penalties for breaches like forfeited estates. Canon law set consent ages at 12 for girls and 14 for boys, but consummation often followed soon after, leading to child brides like Margaret Beaufort, who bore Henry VII at just 13 after a politically expedient union. Nobles like Eleanor of Aquitaine were pawned off at 15 to Louis VII of France to merge vast territories, only to annul and remarry Henry II for similar gains. Peasants had more leeway, but even they arranged matches for farm labor or debt settlement. If love blossomed organically, families eyed it warily, suspecting flaws. Contracts dissected everything. Inheritance clauses. What if the bride proved defective, infertile? Annulment meant returning her like damaged goods, often stranding her in social limbo. Brides were frequently exiled to foreign lands, severed from kin, viewed as breeding stock for heirs or political leverage. In Islamic-influenced regions like medieval Spain, similar customs prevailed, with girls as young as 9 betrothed. This wasn't romance. It was legalized trafficking, breeding, resentment, and affairs. Yet, society hailed it as duty. Goes persist. In some cultures, arranged unions, but medieval Europe perfected the art of turning I do into I own. 3. The Church's relentless war on pleasure, turning intimacy into sinif courtly love, weaponized emotions. The medieval Catholic Church declared all-out jihad on physical joy, framing sex as a battlefield where Satan lurked in every tingle of desire. Rooted in patristic thinkers like St. Augustine, who in the 4th-5th centuries argued that pre-fall humans reproduced sans lust. Like divine automation, the Church taught that post-Eden pleasure was proof of corruption, a demonic echo of original sign. By the High Middle Ages, doctrines crystallized. Sex was permissible only for procreation within marriage, and even then, enjoyment constituted sin venial, if mild, mortal, if enthusiastic. Penitentials, those grim sin catalogs, prescribed fasts, or floggings for non-missionary positions, foreplay, or fantasies. The infamous no-sex calendar banned intimacy on Sundays, Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, holy feasts, Lent 40 days, Advent, another 40, menstruation, pregnancy, and breastfeeding leaving. Perhaps 40 to 60 allowable days annually approached. Like bitter medicine, quick, mechanical, guilt-laden, women fared worst. Labeled inherently lustful heirs to Eve, their bodies devilish snares for men's souls. Pope Gregory the Great, in the 6th century, deemed marital pleasure sinful, while later, theologians like Thomas Aquinas ranked celibacy supreme, marriage a mere concession to weakness. Confessors grilled couples on bedroom details, fostering shame. Yet, hypocrisy abounded. Clergy often kept concubines, and laity rebelled via bawdy tales like Chaucer's. This doctrine poisoned intimacy, equating desire with damnation. Modern purity cultures owe a debt here medieval. Christianity turned biology into psychological torment. 4. Violence as the ultimate romantic. gesture from kidnappings to bloody tournaments. Medieval romance didn't court with flowers. It conquered with fists and blades, blurring love and brutality in a spectacle that would horrify today's standards. Knights won women through force, with literature portraying abductions as thrilling escapades. In pastorelles or Arthurian tales, heroes like Lancelot's beloveds risking life to prove passion. Tournaments, evolving from 11th century melees to structured jousts, were violent pageants. Knights in 60-pound armor clashed often fatally, while ladies awarded favors to victors. Blood signified devotion. Women were conditioned to admire aggressors, scorning gentle men. Duels and wars erupted over honor, like the 100 Years' War's romantic pretexts. The mythic Droit du Seigneur amplified this, testing husbands via lordly claims. Real knights, unlike sanitized legends, were often mercenaries entangled in politics. Violence equated to virility. Our action hero. Crushes started here. 5. Women as property and prizes. Ownership over agency in medieval society. Women weren't autonomous lovers, they were chattels, prizes in a patriarchal game of acquisition. Under coverture laws, a wife's identity dissolved into her husband's. She couldn't own property, sue, or contract independently. Fathers transferred daughters via marriage, with widows gaining fleeting rights before remarriage. Tournaments awarded women alongside spoils. Adultery was theft of male assets. Wars treated captives as trophies, expected to submit. Exceptions, like noble heiresses, existed, but agency was rare. Romance masked ownership as chivalry. 6. Death before dishonor. Obsession with tragic endings. Medieval hearts craved catastrophe. Love stories peaked in ruin, with death the crowning glory. Tristan and Isolde's potion-fueled affair ends in betrayal and suicide. Lancelot and Guinevere doom Camelot. Abelard and Heloise's passion leads to castration and separation, their letters eternal laments. Lovesickness was a fatal malady. Suicide, heroic. Influences ripple to Shakespeare. Party happiness. For commoners, nobles needed epic downfall. 7. Lingering shadows. How medieval love haunts modern romance. Finally, let's confront the afterlife. Medieval notions didn't vanish. They morphed into our cultural DNA. Courtly love's unrequited pining fuels, rom-com angst, and friend-zone memes. Tragic tales inspire Twilight's doomed lovers or Game of Thrones' violent passions. Church doctrines echo in abstinence education. Ownership lingers in possessive jealousy. Tolkien and Spencer drew from chivalric roots. We've progressed, but unpacking these ghosts is key to healthier love. There you have it, the unvarnished nightmare of medieval romance. What medieval relics do you spot in today's dating? Share below and subscribe for more history dives.